Just 5 days away, Dave, until the NHL trade deadline. Here, our coverage on the fourth period brought to you by Betway. Let's get things started on the West Coast with the San Jose Sharks and a potential contract extension for one Tomas Hertl.
Yeah, or if they've been grinding away at this for the last few days between Hurdle's camp and the San Jose Sharks. Now, my understanding is that they are putting the final touches on a long-term deal. They have the parameters in place for what's believed to be an 8-year extension. It's just a matter now of finalizing the financial structure of the contract. So once they get that all hammered out, and they're working on that today, probably as we are recording this, we'll get some news relatively shortly, possibly as early as later today, of an extension in place and locked in with the Sharks and Tomas Hertl. Once that's done, Irf, they're going to shift their focus to Alex Barabanov and get him, or at least hope to get him on the way to an extension as well. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. He's making $1 million, but he's having a tremendous year for the Sharks. A good piece in that room. They'd like to keep him in there beyond this season. So once the Hertl aspect is done, they're going to shift their focus and try to get Barabanov locked in as well.
Let's head over to Detroit and the latest with Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of put this out there first last year that he was available or at least up for grabs. Teams were willing to, or the Red Wings were willing to listen to teams. And then again this season, a few weeks ago on NHL Network, I indicated that Bertuzzi was a guy that a lot of teams have interest in. Now, there are some clubs that are poking around trying to see how they can make something work. He's got 1 year left on his contract. After this season, I'm not sure if teams are willing to pay a pretty hefty price for this guy right now. I mean, we'll obviously wait and see. But you're looking at a first-round pick, a young NHL caliber player, and another asset, very similar to the Anthony Mantha deal with Washington last season. So you have teams that are poking around that are trying to see if maybe they can get ahead of things prior to the offseason if nothing is done by the deadline. Toronto, the Islanders, the Pittsburgh Penguins, a few others have poked around. So we'll keep tabs on this as the days progress.
Well, and then there's a team that we've been talking about really every day for the last couple of weeks, and that's the Florida Panthers. They've been meowing pretty good right now, I'd say. They just traded Frankie Vetrano to the New York Rangers for a fourth-round pick. Is that making a move for something bigger, or is that maybe the Rangers wanting him as well?
A combo. The Rangers have a ton of cap space, so they've wanted to solidify their bottom six. They get Vetrano in there, and from Florida's perspective, frees up his cap hit completely. There's no money retained on that deal. So now they're sitting at around 5 and change in overall cap space that they can utilize going into the trade deadline. And they are in the thick of things with respect to Claude Giroux. I mentioned earlier this week that I think they might be considered the favorites at this stage in terms of getting Claude Giroux. If they don't, they're also looking at some other assets that they can bring in, perhaps on the back end. They've been really engaged in some of the top defensemen that are out there too. They obviously would love Claude Giroux, but we'll see how that goes. The deal in Vetrano helps free up some cap space.
David, thank you very much for this. Again, 5 days away from the NHL trade deadline. Head on over to thefourthperiod.com for all our coverage, analysis, opinions, and our trade watch list.